Imagine a world without choices. Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC. Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It is a natural right for every human being to be free. Free, so free. So the government is there to protect you and me. UIC objective is to liberate the citizens from colonial bondage, them regulation, them taxation. Rob Jamaica, we independent. Be stronger together we can make it right. Our purpose is a
Good evening, and welcome everyone to another session on UIC Liberty TV. It is really my pleasure to be here with you tonight. We're going to be talking about why vote UIC Jamaica. My name is Joseph Patterson, and today we're going to be talking about reason number 2 as to why you should not only vote UIC, but join, volunteer, and donate as well to help us protect your rights and freedom. So I want to invite all of you who are on here tonight to please help us beat the media blockade by liking, commenting, and sharing this presentation on all your social media platforms, all your channels. And don't forget to subscribe and tell all your contacts to do the same. Let's spread the word. All right, let's get back to the main topic for tonight. Great to see you on early as usual, Miss Powell. Good to see you on, Carl Spence, Lion Rule the Jungle, Baba Blue, Desmond Myrie, big up, my taxi driver, Sylvester Lawrence. Good to see you all on. So tonight we have a really important topic to talk about, and it's one of the big differences that the UIC brings to the table. And it's going to look at reason number 2 on why to vote UIC Jamaica. There are lots of reasons. I see where somebody mentioned that there are so many reasons to vote UIC, and I couldn't agree with you more. Let me just block a few people that are trying to send us some bad things on here. Yeah, I think I got that one. So good night to all of you. Janet Chukanowski, the longest serving director of the UIC, Ola, good to see you on. Miss Chukanowski, I think I'm the only one that can pronounce your name correctly. Cool guy, good to see you on as well. Valerie Lee, nice to have you all on tonight as we dig into this very important topic. Now, last time we looked at reason number 1, which was to replace the monarchy and its colonial system of governance with a true republic to protect your sovereignty, including the right to choose what goes into your body without being victimized by your employer or government. Can you imagine that? A government that wants to victimize you, employers that want to victimize you for choosing what medication you want to use. So that's what we talked about last night at a high level. We looked at the history of the monarchy, and we said to ourselves, my God, that was supposed to be enough for us to have completely severed ties with that system and with those people, and to chart our own and truly independent future. But sorry to say, our early leaders turned out to be imposters, and they have maintained that system for some 78 years now. Unbelievable. Last night we also talked about the fraudulent fiat monetary system, including our government's borrowing at interest from the IMF and the banking cartels. And we pointed out that that system was designed to keep us indebted, poor, and dependent instead of independent. It should never have been adopted by our leaders, but they blindly chose political expediency over good governance. Last night, we also talked about the colonial partisan political system, how they use it to divide us, to distract us, and deceive us, so that a few of them can extract our wealth from us. This system, too, should never have been adopted if we wanted to be united. Last night, we looked at the fact that there is a better way, but that better way requires wise leadership, a leadership that cares more about the people than personal agendas, ego trips, or the love of money and power. And we saw how Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore personified that kind of leadership. And because of his leadership, the same time when our leaders were misleading us, the same time when they were leading us down this rabbit hole, the same time that they were undermining our economy, he, faced with far more challenges, led his people in a direction that brought them peace and prosperity on a level not seen in most countries around the world. Small little Singapore. And so today, we want to turn our attention to reason number 2. Reason number 2 is just as significant as reason number 1. Why should we vote for the UIC? Here's reason number 2. Reason number 2, we want to eliminate, or we will eliminate, the power of big money or the PSOJ oligarchy over our government. We're going to eliminate big money and the PSOJ oligarchy from having power over our government. And how we're going to do that is by implementing a 100% publicly funded campaign financing system. That system will fund only candidates, and it will fund the candidates equally. This will ensure that the candidates that are elected represent the people instead of a party or big business or any special interest group. So that is a profound reason why you want to vote UIC in the next election. To eliminate the power of big money and the PSOJ oligarchy from having power over our government by effecting a 100% publicly funded campaign financing system. Under the current system of governance and campaign financing, those who have the most money, those who have the most money normally wins. You all know this by experience, by looking on, that it takes a lot of money to run an effective campaign in a system where money rules. It's not by chance. The system was designed this way so that those with the most money could control, for the most part, the outcome of our elections. Let's take a look at the US presidential election, for example. We're going to take a look at that and see what that looks like, how that works. All right, I'm not seeing that happening from backstage. Okay. All right, so let me see if I can bring that in by taking a look at how the US campaign financing system works. Please forgive me, I was expecting some help on that one, but I'm not seeing it right now. All right, here we go. Looks like it's coming. Whoops, cancel.
The average American family would have to work more than 14,000 years. The highest paid guy in the NBA, Kobe Bryant, would have to play for 29 years to make as much money as Barack Obama spent to become president in 2008.
Yes, we can.
$730 million. This year, the winner, whether it is him again or someone else, is widely expected to spend as much or maybe more for the privilege of getting that ultimate corner office, the one with no corners. So where does all that money go? For Mr. Obama, 56% of it went to media, according to an analysis by the Center for Responsive Politics. Television, radio, and internet ads. $427 million worth. That means even at $3 million for 30 seconds, he could have bought every commercial in the last Super Bowl and half of this year's game, too. Sport. It's not all advertising, of course. Presidential campaigns are like rapidly growing startup businesses, and that accounts for the second most expensive item on the president's tab last time, administration. About $175 million went for travel, staff salaries, shipping, rent, food, and supplies like staplers, liquid paper, and umbrellas. On the Republican side, various candidates have reported spending $32,000 on cell phones, $2,000 on floral service, and in one case, $200 on an interpreter, among other things. The next biggest item, campaign expenses. Consultants, polling units, posters, flyers, websites, and all those rallies. Bunting and balloons may be hung on trees, but they don't grow there. And on it goes. Money for fundraising events, money for unexpected expenses. Mind you, the candidates are not the only ones spending this way. This year in particular, super PACs could greatly outspend the campaigns, especially in terms of media. Unlike the candidates, these groups are not limited in how much money they can accept from businesses, labor unions, and individuals. And they're already throwing money around like there is no tomorrow. Although legally they cannot coordinate their actions with campaigns, they certainly line up behind their chosen contenders. So, how much difference does all this money make? While there are exceptions, as a rule, the candidate who spends the most or has the most spent for him wins. It's just that simple.
So there you have it. The candidate or the political party that has the most money usually wins. But there's a hidden secret behind all of this that I want you to understand, and I will share with you later. But before we do that, let's shift our attention and look at the Jamaican situation to see that it's not much different. In fact, it's no different from the US system. Let's have a look.
Election spending and democracy. Is it true that who spends the most money tends to win elections? Should the philosophy of sponsorship be for political parties and the grassroots sponsorship versus big private sector sponsorship? Is democracy for sale? To discuss, we are joined by Desmond Richards, who is a managing director of Fanon Publishers and a former president of the Press Association of Jamaica, and Horace Bartilow, who is professor of political science at the University of Kentucky. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, this idea that who spends the most money wins an election seems to be under challenge. It seems to be being challenged this year by what is happening, in particular in the United States. As people are in the last election, 2016, it was said that Hillary Clinton raised more money than Donald Trump, but she lost the election. Can we look to who raises the most money and who spends the most money as an indication of who is likely to win the election? We'll start with you, Mr. Bartilow.
Well, you're touching on a main problem of capitalist societies, right? The contradiction between democracy and capitalism. And I just want to just make one point. I'm looking now at fundraising data, and actually Donald Trump in 2016 raised $612 million, a bit more than Hillary Clinton at about the same time of October 20th, 2016. So, you know, the pattern is, unfortunately, that more money largely is correlated with whether or not you win an election or not.
And Mr. Richards, this idea that our democracy is going to be determined by who sponsors the political party that wins, you know, who gives the most money is who owns the electoral process. How does that rest with you in the idea of a democratic state?
Can you hear us, sir?
Mr. Richards, sir? Mr. Richards.
Can you check
hear us,
your
Mr. Richards?
mic, please? Make sure you're just not muted. Well, actually, no, while he works. Well, as we wait for him, Mr. Bartolo, a question for you. So there's a disconnect between how much is spent at times and who wins. But the one thing I came across was this notion that it doesn't matter if you spend the most and win and lose, but the fact that the individual who does win tends to pass more legislation for individuals who have actually contributed the most to their campaigns. Does that hold true across the board from your experience?
Well, yes, you're asking different. You're asking two separate but related questions, right?
Yes,
So one
yes.
is campaign financing, and the other is, well, after you get elected, do you pass more legislation? And the answer to that tends to be, at least from the American experience, tends to be yes. And those two things are correlated, right? Because the same people who finance your campaign is the same people who are going to lobby you to pass legislation. Where, you know, that's a different but related phenomena, right? Congressional corporate lobbying expenditure is just entirely out the roof. In fact, there was a 2015 book about this. It's called "The Business of America is Lobbying," and what the author shows is that corporate lobbying expenditures is in many respects almost 4 times as large as the combined lobbying expenditures of other civil society groups, including labor unions.
No,
So in other words, they can buy more representation. They can buy more time in front of legislators than anybody else. These are they're separate but related phenomena, right? Campaign financing, which is to get people elected, is also related to the number of bills that tend to get passed once they get into the legislature, right? Because the companies that finance campaigns are the ones that also spend a lot of money lobbying legislatures to pass certain bills. In fact, in the United States, because legislators have to be an expert at everything, and they just can't. It is actually lobbyists that actually are writing legislation, and many times they're writing legislation that is supposed to be regulating them and protecting the public's interests, and that doesn't get happen. So that's a big problem with why money is such a big problem in democracies.
Mr. Bartolo, sorry, Mr. Richards, we've covered the issue of campaign financing. Yeah, we can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Are you I am hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I am. Outstanding. So,
are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, I am. Can you hear me? Are we here? We good?
I'm hearing you, sir. Go ahead.
Outstanding. Okay, so let's continue now.
Yes.
When it comes to the issue of campaign financing, there are issues. The model where it's all privately funded, you raise it on your own. There is a hybrid model where it comes from the government coffers partly, and then you make up the rest on your own. Or you have some nations where it's completely funded by the government, by the state. Now, which model do you think would best serve Jamaica within this time and place?
Well, ideally, the state model of financing would be a good model, but is that affordable? That's the big question. Is that affordable? Are we, the Jamaican state at the moment, is it in a position to fork out more dollars? Hundreds of
Oh, no.
I think we're losing you again, sir.
dollars to finance elections.
Right.
On top of it, I think.
Okay, well, while we sort that out with you, Mr. Richards, we're not hearing you as well as we want to. Professor Bartolo, one of the things that I've been noticing in the U.S. elections is the many ways that people are not able to predict who is winning, from what zip codes the sponsorship is going towards a particular party. So they're looking at who is sponsoring Biden, for example, and his zip codes kind of indicate the more educated, college-educated American. I'm also looking at what is happening in respect of betting. In Australia, people are excited about betting on the presidential race. In the U.S. and in England, in Great Britain, they're betting heavily on the race. So I'm not a betting person, but it's the odds that is helping people to predict who is likely to win. So we're looking at zip codes, we're looking at the odds and who is being seen as the favorite in terms of the betting, and people are saying, you know, these are better predictors now than the polls. How does that sit with you in respect of saying, okay, let us look at what is happening around the betting side to see who is likely to win the election?
Well, that's not really anything new, you know. There's a branch of political science research that takes its cues from how markets respond to certain candidates as a predictor of an election outcome, right? Which is, you know, sort of similar to what you just mentioned about betting. But you see, this gets back to the issue of the contradiction between trying to have a democracy within a capitalist society, right? It's very hard to get money out of a democratic process, and so we run into these problems. Right now, in the United States, we can predict that Joe Biden is going to win the election just by financing. As of this month, well, October, he has raised close to $1 billion already, compared to, and while I'm talking to you, I'm looking at the data, compared to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is way behind him at $612 million, which is a little bit behind Barack Obama in 2012. So that should tell you that Biden is more likely to win just by the amount of money he's raising. And
hold that thought.
All right, let me jump in at this point and just point out a few things. So it is true that, you know, whoever has the most money has the greatest possibility of winning. But also, who gives the most money, in fact, does own the political process. But that is not a fault of capitalism, as the gentleman pointed out. He's suggesting that capitalism is a problem. But guess what? If you, in fact, had a capitalist society, as they call it, because capitalism means government does not interfere with the economy, but simply focuses on protecting you from force and fraud. That's what, you know, if they're going by the true definition of capitalism. So what they're saying is, capitalists are buying the politicians. But capitalists could not buy the politicians if the politicians were not able to do things for them by meddling with the economy. So it's kind of a fraudulent argument, and it shows a weakness in intellect of the individual who is speaking. So capitalism does not create incentives for politicians to donate, for big business to donate to politicians. The incentives are created when you have a system which they call a mixed economy, which allows the politicians to meddle with our economy, to play with our economy, to regulate us and tax us in ways that favors big business. Then you have an incentive for big business to get involved. They also mentioned that publicly funding the campaign process is unaffordable. That was the suggestion from the gentleman that was speaking. Again, that is not true. As I'm going to show you later on, you're going to see where publicly funding the system is actually much less expensive than what currently obtains. The problem, you see, is entirely due to campaign financing. That is the real issue. What are the rules that we've decided to have in our political process? Which is why the UIC, having realized where the key problem is, if you have a campaign financing system that is designed to attract and therefore be controlled by big business, you're going to get that outcome. So we're going to change the system so that you have a 100% publicly funded model that makes your representative completely independent of two things. Is independent of the party. So now you're going to have a candidate who, let's say he decides to run on the JLP umbrella for whatever reason, that's fine. Maybe he agrees with the philosophy, even though they don't really have a philosophy. But let's say they had a philosophy and he agreed with the philosophy, and another person wants to run under the PNP umbrella because they agree with the philosophy. And another person wants to run under the UIC umbrella because they agree with the philosophy. The fact that under this system, they would not receive any money from either of those, or any of those parties, and they would not receive any money from any big business or any individual or any group, that person now becomes truly independent and can in fact represent the interest of the constituents. I'll explain more in a bit. That is why we call what we're going to have a United Independence Congress instead of a parliament, which is really a colonial, partisan, divisive construct. The current system that we have is designed to divide. It's designed to create animosity. It's designed for us to fight each other. While the UIC system is designed for you to be independent and for you to then focus on cooperating and talking about policy as opposed to fighting each other. Now, there's no doubt that the two parties have been playing with us with the current system. You can listen to them telling us that the system is rigged while they dance around it and dance around any real fixes. The next video clip is going to show you the parliamentarians talking about campaign financing, and watch carefully, listen to their words, watch their facial expressions, and you'll see that they actually know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it to us deliberately. Take a look.
Meanwhile, opposition member and MP for West Portland, Darrell Vaz, believes the campaign financing legislation needs revision. Mr. Vaz claims the bill has several loopholes. The campaign finance bill provides the framework for the funding of election campaigns. Political parties and their candidates are barred from accepting funds from a Commonwealth or foreign country, as well as entities whose proceeds are considered illicit. However, Mr. Vaz says the bill only speaks to the collection and expenditure of monies during the campaign period. The bill defines a campaign period from the date of the announcement of a general election. A candidate is allowed to spend $10 million to fund their campaign, but Mr. Vaz says candidates spend much more.
A smart candidate, Mr. Speaker, like me, our political party can therefore strive to get its contributions in and much of its expenditure undertaken before the announcement is made. Right now.
Working.
Right now. So a candidate who spends $10 million prepaying his car rental, bus hiring bills, paying for his t-shirts, his armbands, etc., will still be able to legally spend another $10 million during campaign period. And since July, Mr. Speaker, in actual fact, when the member on the other side from East Central put us on election alert, unauthorized election alert, I know for a fact that not only me, but several people have bought their t-shirts, their armbands, they wrapped their vehicles and done so much in preparation for election.
The MP also disagrees with the $10 million limitation. Despite the concerns expressed, the campaign finance bill was passed.
That does not make perfection the enemy of the good. And yes, we are seeking to do some modest adjustments now, and we should allow them to go through, and then we will be constantly reviewing the provisions to make sure the ECJ, to make sure that we have an effective campaign finance law.
So, if you listen carefully, notice the words and the facial expression of our leaders. They knew exactly what they were doing. They're making, in their words, they're making modest adjustments while allowing the rigged system to go on. Paul Well actually makes it clear that they don't want perfection, while Vaz was telling us clearly what he's doing and what others are doing to beat the system. So they actually take the time out in this session to tell us how the system is failing, how they're beating the system, and the other side, while they're in government, had no problem with that system continuing while dancing around the issues and telling us that one day they'll get around to fixing more, and they're not really interested in having a perfect system now. Well, the UIC wants a perfect system now, and we have a plan for a perfect system. But before I go into that some more, let's look at what's behind the scene. The oligarchy in Jamaica is the PSOJ. The PSOJ, big business elites, they constitute what I call the oligarchs. They're the ones who actually own and control our politicians and our government by way of funding their campaigns. And so before I go any further, let me just show you exactly what an oligarchy is. Let's pay attention here.
What is oligarchy? Etymologically speaking, the word oligarchy comes from the two Greek words, oligon, which means few, and archo, which means to rule or to command. Hence, oligarchy literally means rule of the few. Formally speaking, oligarchy is a form of government in which political power effectively rests with a small, elite segment of society. Oligarchy was used by Aristotle in a negative sense to refer to despotic power exercised by a small and privileged group for often corrupt or selfish purposes. In most classic oligarchies, governing elites were recruited exclusively from a hereditary ruling caste, whose members tended to exercise power in the interests of their own class. Oligarchies have sometimes been synonymous with aristocracies, which were ruled by members of a noble class, or with plutocracies, that is, ruled by the wealthy members of a community. However, neither wealth nor noble birth are necessary conditions for belonging to the privileged group which rules an oligarchy. Historically, there have been organized oligarchies and unofficial oligarchies in which a group of advisors dictated the policies of an official ruler. In practice, almost all governments, whatever their form, are run by a small minority of members of society, and it is necessary to further examine the ways in which these individuals acquire and retain power in order to correctly understand whether a system of government is an oligarchy. Ancient Greek oligarchs characteristically possessed greater wealth and influence than the rest of the community, but noble birth, was not a necessary condition for belonging to the ruling elite. In ancient Greece, the oligarchs were often a section of the old nobility which had excluded the poorer nobles from power. During the second half of the 5th century BCE, when Athenian ascendancy promoted democratic forms of government, there were still many oligarchic states in Greece, the most notable perhaps being at Corinth and at Thebes. The government of the Roman Republic is also often described as oligarchical. Historical examples of oligarchies are Sparta, which excluded the Helots, who made up the majority of the population, from voting; the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, in which only the nobility could vote; the English parliamentary system and execution of Charles I in 1649; and the restriction of the franchise to male property owners in young democracies, such as the early United States. A modern example of oligarchy, based on race, could be seen during the 20th century in South Africa in the apartheid system, which became official government policy in 1948 and lasted until the democratic election of a government dominated by the black majority in 1994. Russia has been labeled an oligarchy because, after the fall of communism, political power became concentrated in the hands of certain individuals who amassed great wealth by taking advantage of the new system.
Win at work by communicating effectively with grammar.
So there you have it. Oligarchy. Now in Jamaica, the oligarchy that we have in Jamaica is made up of persons who are among the business elite. They come together and they make sure that they fund both sides of the political divide that has been created by the colonial powers for the very purpose of dividing us so that they can better able conquer the country. The PSOJ oligarchs, they act like a middleman for that process. So they provide the bulk of the funding to the political parties for them to go out and do their vote buying and their trickery and so on. What this does, it ensures that the two parties are always obligated to the PSOJ oligarchs and will always act in a way that is satisfactory to them. It may even appear to you while watching as if the two parties are doing opposite things and you think it's a real competition and a real option. No, at the end of the day, whoever wins the election, the game, will always revert back to doing what is required of them, of the PSOJ. Why? Because if they do not do what the PSOJ oligarchs want, they will not get enough donations for the next election, and therefore they will lose. Yeah? So you need to understand that these donations are not given out of the goodness of the PSOJ members' hearts. They're being given for the clear and present intention of managing the government, owning the government, controlling the government to protect their interest, even if protecting their interest is contrary to the interest of the general population. So here's another clip that will show you the private sector members actually saying what I'm saying here.
Registrar of Political Parties at the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, LaFron Thompson, says a few companies have submitted documents to the EOJ as part of the campaign financing legislation. Companies and individuals who donate to political parties, whether in cash or kind, must declare so to the Commission. Head of Compliance at the Jamaica Money Market Brokers, Carolyn DaCosta, said the company has completed its declaration form to be submitted to the EOJ. JMMB donated $5 million to the two major political parties during the campaign.
Election, both parties got $2.5 million each Jamaican. With this new election financing thing, we are also completed our forms to submit to the electoral body.
Under the legislation, if the donor has a government contract of at least $500,000, they must declare that to the EOJ within 2 weeks of making the donation. The political party's report is not due until 6 months after the general election, and by that time, the new administration would have been settled in. There are concerns that political parties may accept donations in return for favors, including more contracts, positions, and opportunities. Former president of the private sector organization of Jamaica, Howard Mitchell, says the new legislation was drafted to highlight this sort of kickback.
There are entities and individuals out there who give large amounts of money, tens of millions of dollars. Now, when they do that, you think they expect nothing in return? You think they do it out of the goodness of their heart?
But now there appears to be another gap. The reporting period, which begins on the day of the election announcement, to 180 days after the general election, which was on September 3. There are reports that political parties and their candidates received campaign donations before August 11, which is not included in the campaign period. Jamila Maitland for CVM Live.
So that news clip would have suggested to you that, hey, look, we're fixing the problem. We have a reporting process in place for campaign donations to be reported. Look, we're good citizens. We're declaring that we donated $2.5 million to that party and $2.5 million to this party. And the gentleman that came at the end says, hey, we know that people, when they give money, they're not giving it out of the goodness of their heart. And so we want this process to reveal to you whenever there's a problem. But how does it do that? The process reveals nothing. The process tells you that in one case, for example, that they donated equal amounts to each party. What does that do for us? It's good that we know that they donated, but what does it stop? How does it prevent kickbacks? How will you know that there were no kickbacks? What will be the basis for telling you there were no kickbacks? And we know from countless examples that there's a lot of corruption in our government. So clearly, this process is not working, no matter how much they try to cover it up and tell you nice things. Declarations mean nothing, as it only ensures that the oligarchs get to see how much each other is giving, and that's important. And they also get to know that they're giving equally to both sides, which is in keeping with their plan. Think about it. If you sit down around a table and you organize with your cartel brethren them, and you plan that, okay, listen now, as a rule, we're all going to give equal. If it's kept private, you won't know if everybody around the table actually did their part. By you getting a legislation in place, you now know, yes, so we're all following the game plan. And if anybody gives less, it will be apparent and known. Now, some cases, they may agree that they want to give less. Let's say, for example, one of the two parties is not behaving right. They're not following through on some of the agreed things that should be done. Then the cartel agrees that they should reduce the amount that is given to this one. How will they ensure that every member of the cartel does what is agreed to? By having a reporting system, a legally binding reporting system. So that reporting system really, while it appears to serve us, it's really to serve them and doesn't stop the problem, because all the other loopholes that exist for you to give a large amount of money prior to the election, then meet the large amount of donation allowed within the election, all of that is permissible by law. And as Darrell Vaz pointed out in the previous clip, that he uses that strategy to spend far more than the window dressing caps that they tell us. Those caps are just there to fool us, to placate us, for us to say, good, there are campaign financing legislation in place and they are protecting our interests. No, they're not. Every piece of legislation is carefully crafted and written to undermine our position as a people and to advance the cause of the oligarchy. Every piece of legislation. So it might sound good, it might be positioned right, it might be sold properly to us in the public, but the net effect of it is that they still get to do what they want to do. So in 2016, in public, we're told $144 million at one point was being donated in the 2016 election. And then we're told that at another point for 2022 that $300 million was donated. The final numbers can be discovered, but those were two examples. Now these are lots This is a lot of money. $300 million just during the election period alone. I wonder if we can put that up on the screen so you can see that. Are you able to do that? Can we show the $300 million article on screen? There you go. $300 million donated in 2020 to the two parties by the PSOJ. Okay, I think I'm back with you now. I think we lost a bit of connection earlier. Yeah, so the whole system is fraudulent. So the PSOJ oligarchs, they give both sides to give us the appearance of a choice, while knowing that by giving, they own both sides and will always get their way, or they can threaten not to give in the future. It's a very, very simple model. It's very effective and it works beautifully. Yeah. And so the UIC has a very different plan. Yeah. But before we go into that, let's look at two small clips about campaign financing. One is a little funny, but look for the real message in both of these clips and see. Very short clips. Go ahead, run them for me.
I will finance you. I think you're going to win the next election. I just need to know how I going to benefit.
See the Chris SUV there? I might get all of the government big contract them.
Them have to give him. I him support them big time.
Not no left away. That for stop. Jamaica enough for run, sir.
The publicly show how much them give and stop the corruption.
For real.
End secret campaign financing now. Build integrity.
Sponsored by the National Integrity Action Limited, partnering with NIAF.
I will finance.
Right, so the first part of that was very accurate. And the last part of it now, where they're telling you, you should be very comfortable now because we have changed the law so that we will have them disclose how much they contribute. But that means nothing, as I just explained to you before. Let's look at the next clip now, which is a bit hilarious, but quite interesting. Go ahead.
Campaign Watch 2012. And now, Congressman Cam Brady on campaign finance reform.
The guys are prepared to donate $500,000 to your PAC. Provided, of course, you pick up the phone anytime we call.
Oh, hold on. Hello, how about 750? If you give us $1 million, hell, I'll let you sleep with my wife.
And for 1.5, I'll throw in my cousin.
I don't know if you want her cousin. That might drive the price down.
She lost weight.
Oh, Mrs. Brady, are you playing footsie with me under the table?
Nope, that's me.
He's a switch hitter.
No, I did once in college, yes, which we've never talked about.
This important message has been brought to you by the campaign.
Goes without saying, this lunch never happened.
Rated R. Only in theaters August 10th.
I'm sure you got the point. They were laughing all the way, but this is very serious. Don't be fooled by the humor. This is real. It's very, very real. It's a reflection of what is really happening behind the scenes. You'd be amazed at the things that go on behind the scenes. Politics is a show. It's show business. It is one big bag of tricks. Now, of course, they would never support a movement like the UIC. They would never want what we're about to do to happen in Jamaica. So rest assured that they're going to throw a lot of money behind discrediting our movement. Yeah? But let's take a closer look now at the UIC system. I'm going to try to walk you through our system now so that you can have a pretty decent understanding of how our system is going to work. Let me see if I can share that screen with you. 1 second here. All right, I used to have that screen, but now it is gone somewhere for lunch, it seems. Yeah, it's amazing, eh? The things that happen here. I want to show you a PowerPoint presentation, but for some reason, I am not seeing it anymore. All right, well, let me try to do it just by explaining in words for you how I really wanted to show you this PowerPoint presentation because it would solidify in your minds how important it is for us to do this. I have it open here, but I am not seeing the window that will allow me to share that document. But let me close a few things out and see if that will make a difference. You know, the technology is something else, you know. The technology, I actually tested this before we came live just to make sure that we would have no problem here. And it seemed as if, you know, it doesn't want to cooperate. It doesn't want to cooperate. 1 second. All right, here we go. No, not showing. All right, so I will do without it. I will just speak from the top of my head on this one. So the UIC system is designed this way. First of all, we're going to remove 100% from the political system every ounce of private money when it comes on to funding campaigns. Okay? So we believe that a publicly funded campaign is the best and most affordable model because it contains the cost, it levels the playing field, and it reduces the opportunity for corruption by candidates. What it does, it separates the candidate from the political party when it comes on to funding. It separates the candidate from special interest groups when it comes on to funding. It separates the candidate from big business or big money when it comes on to funding. So in our system, for you to be a candidate, anybody can become a candidate as long as you first and foremost take an exam called a good governance exam, and this exam is going to allow you to demonstrate that you understand what it means to be a representative of the people. So you have to understand some basic things. Yeah, you have to understand civics, history, economics, statistics, professional ethics, all the things you need to be an effective representative of the people in your community. Now we know that not everybody know all of these things. So we put together a course that you want to be a candidate, you take this course and you demonstrate that you have the competences, the core competences. For example, you don't want a candidate who's unable to analyze statistical data. You don't want a candidate who doesn't understand the history of money. You don't want a candidate who does not have professional ethics and know how to behave under different circumstances. You don't want a candidate who doesn't understand the civics of your country. So that's one of the reasons why Singapore is so powerful. They make sure that their politicians are some of the best and brightest in the country. They're very knowledgeable, very aware of what is going on. Now, what we do from there, once the candidate meets the qualification requirements, such as knowledge and competences, experience, the age level that is required, and all that kind of stuff. Once he passes all of that, or she passes all of that, the candidate now has to go out into their respective constituency, whether it's a divisional constituency, or a parish constituency, or a national constituency, and get signatures from a certain number of voters. We call them the nominators. These nominators, when they sign off on your credentials, on your nomination form, they're not just doing that willy-nilly. They're signing off on that form to say that they are giving you their vote. So let's say you're running for president and you need to get a total of 100 signatures. Those 100 signatures are giving you their votes when they sign that document. So they will lose that vote. They'll not be able to switch later on. So that means they're going to take it very seriously before they sign off on that document to give you their votes. So now, remember, you have the knowledge, you have experience as a person. So whatever that is, maybe you're a plumber or a carpenter or a business owner, whatever it is, but you have demonstrated that you know how to manage something. You have had a job, you have had, either a steady job, series of jobs and promotions and positions, or you have built a business. But you can't just be anybody. You have to be somebody who has demonstrated competences. So you have done that. You have taken the good governance exam that shows that you understand the political system, the economic system, and so on. And then you have gone into your community now, whatever your constituency base is, and you have gotten persons who are qualified to vote in that area to certify you that they are nominating you to run. Once you have that, and remember, the persons who sign off, they're giving you their votes. So when the election is called, those signatures are automatically your votes already. So if you must get 100 based on your category or 50 based on your category, it's done. It's in the bag. Those are already votes. You know them. They know you. They know that they have given you their signature. No, we don't require a bachelor's degree or anything like that. We're just going to look at your competences. So that's the purpose of the test, because a person may not have a degree. They may just be a self-taught person, but they're very bright. They understand what's going on. They can explain things. They can analyze things. So we don't want to disenfranchise somebody just because they did not have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. What we're looking for in a candidate is somebody who have the core competences to represent their constituents. And you're going to see later on in our process that when you're a politician that's running for office, you don't have to be a technocrat, somebody who fully knows how to deal with a ministry. That's a separate thing. So in our system, we have subject matter experts as ministers. We don't mix up the two, as I'll explain to you in a bit. We don't mix up the MP with the minister portfolio. So for example, your MP is not also your Minister of Finance. Your MP is not also your Minister of Health. We separate the two fully. And the reason for that is to ensure we have proper checks and balances. Now, let me go back to the electoral process. So remember, you have demonstrated that you have the experience, meaning professional experience, business experience, life experience that is worthy of talking about. You demonstrate through our examination process that you understand economics enough, you understand statistics enough, you understand history enough, you understand civics enough, so you can be relied upon by the constituents to represent them because you have a broad base of knowledge. It doesn't mean you are an expert in any one of those fields, but you have enough fundamental knowledge to be able to properly represent somebody, much more represent an entire community or constituency. Once you meet those basic requirements and you have gotten the signatures from the required number of nominators in your community, you automatically now get placed on the ballot. So no party, there's an age factor, Norman. So there will be age factors. So for example, I'm not going to get into that right now, but you'll have age level. To vote, you need to be 18. For you to run for the Senate, there's an age. For you to run for the House of Representatives, there's an age. For you to run for president, there's an age, and so on. But barring those age factors, the key things are your competency factors. Now, the moment you are placed on the ballot, here's what happens to you now. You don't have to worry about getting any money from anybody. You don't have to worry about spending any of your own money, because our system is going to ensure that you get the same access to radio advertisement, the same access to television advertisement, the same access to internet advertisement, the same access to town hall meetings, and the same access to debates. So let's say you're one of the candidates running for president. You will not have to worry about where am I going to get money from to do radio commercials. There'll be a budget for that. You'll be given the same budget, the same help. So you don't have to worry about having any experts. You'll have the same help to organize and do your ads. Your contribution is the content you're bringing to that. What content you're bringing, what are your policies, what are your proposals? Yeah. And so you now bring those forward, and you'll get the help from professionals that are paid by the government to help you to put out your ads. You get the same amount of minutes, and your ads will go out. Radio, television. On the internet, you'll get the same access to a platform that says John Brown running for MP for Northeast St. Elizabeth, and it will give your name, everything, how to find you, all of that information, and your policies, your manifesto, whatever it is, your ads that were created, all of that will be there. All a person has to do is go on the government website and say, who is the candidate for my area? They'll see the 2 persons, the 3 persons, the 4 persons, and can click their age, their curriculum vitae or CV, their manifesto, their electronic ads, their posters, everything will be right there. You can go and look at it, the whole 9 yards. The same thing now, when it's time for town hall meetings, you will be told the dates and schedules for town hall meetings around your constituency, whatever it is, if it's at a divisional level or a constituency level or a parish level or a county level or national level, whatever it is, the town hall meetings, all candidates are invited. All candidates are provided transportation. All candidates are provided a tailored suit that makes them look just as good as any other candidate to come to the town hall meeting and to then present. The only thing not provided for you is what to say. That's your job. You have to have what your policies are, what your message is, and so on. But you will not be disadvantaged in any way. And similarly, when it's time for the debates, all candidates again will get the coaching that they need because it's paid for upfront, and they all go and get their coaching from the paid coaching staff. They will all get to go on stage and present what they have to say, answer whatever questions are to be answered. And then once they're done doing that, and during the process, they'll be fact-checked, they'll be vetted prior to the election, and they will be audited to make sure that their backgrounds are clean and all of that. And then that information again will be published on the website and presented through the media so that we have the information on all the candidates. And then the citizens will be able to vote electronically from their home. The electronic voting will issue a receipt. So you'll have that receipt in your phone to show what your vote was so that you can have it. You can print off your receipt on your computer to verify your vote. It will go through. No long lines at any polling stations, no big caravans, no whole heap of excitement that can be very costly and dangerous, no intimidation going into a polling booth or whatever. The whole process will be seamless. It will also allow, therefore, for persons outside of Jamaica, everyone in the diaspora who wishes to remain a Jamaican will have the capacity to vote from wherever they are in the world for the candidate of their choice in the constituency that they have chosen to identify with during their registration process. Registration to vote will be ongoing. There won't be any cutoff period, except for when we have the election. The actual election period the day when the election is announced, that's the cutoff. But outside of that, they'll be ongoing. You can always be registered. And your basic registration is the fact that you're born here. So once you're born here, you're automatically registered, and all you have to do is just come and sign in to say you want to exercise your right. There's a match in the system to verify you, and you're done. You can vote from Canada, from England, from France, from Barbados, from Cayman Island, from Japan, from Africa. It doesn't matter. Once you're a Jamaican, you will be entitled to vote, and you'll be able to vote. Now, this 100% publicly funded system will cut the cost of campaigning tremendously down. But more important than that, not just the cost, more importantly, under the UIC, the richer candidate will have no financial advantage, and the poorer candidate will not be financially disadvantaged. This is very important. Our system of governance has carefully figured out how to separate the executive branch, which is the president, the 3 vice president, the general secretary, and the treasury secretary, which is the finance minister. That's the core executive branch. And then you have the House of Representatives, which is all the community representatives in the House. And then you have the Senate. And we have done a beautiful thing by making your senators elected senators, not appointed. Yeah. And by now introducing this 100% publicly financing campaign system, we have eliminated completely the control of our government, the control of our politicians, eliminated completely the control of them by parties and by the PSOJ oligarchy or anybody else who have big money. So even the criminals, the dons who may, through the drug thing or whatever, have a lot of money, they will no longer be able to buy our politicians because the system completely insulates the politician from those who have a whole heap of money. You understand? And so this system is called a 100% publicly funded campaign financing system. Now, when candidates are independent of parties and independent of big donors, it means they can be free to speak their minds. They can be free to question every law. They can be free to question every policy. They can be free to question every action of the executive branch of government, and therefore give you, the citizens, transparency into all that's going on. In the current system, MPs are not free. They have to toe the party line. Senators are not free. They have to toe the party line. And only if they have something on the prime minister, they can speak a little freer. But if they don't have nothing on him, they have to watch it. Because if you're a senator and you don't behave yourself, the prime minister will not appoint you to a ministerial portfolio that will give you access to power and money. The same thing if you're an MP in the current system and you misbehave, meaning you don't follow the directives given to you. Whole heap of things happen. One, you have no hope of making it in the cabinet. And two, the next election you won't be funded, so you can't run. But in the UIC system of governance, you are completely independent of the party and you're completely independent of big money. Now, why would you then be a part of a party? No problem. Maybe because you just like the philosophies of the party and you use it as a what do you call it now, like a think tank. Yeah, you get together, you think, and you work things out. No problem, because we're not in the business of getting rid of you having the freedom to associate. What we don't want, though, is for you, being a representative of the people, to lose the freedom to fully represent the people. We want you as a candidate to have the full and unequivocal freedom to speak out, to stand up, and to know that if you stand up and you speak out, if you question something, if you probe something, if you investigate something, and you find out what's going on and speak up, there'll be no victimization. The president can't take away your funding for your re-election. The big man in the PSOJ can't take away your funding for re-election. You will still get the same media. The media can't shut you out because you are automatically guaranteed your media spot by the electoral laws that the UIC is going to bring in. You're going to get same access to radio as you did the last time before. So let's say you're a bad MP, meaning bad is you bring up things, you identify stuff and bring it to the attention of the public and cause trouble for the administration. Guess what? Next election, you have nothing to worry about. As long as you get your nominators and you have not done anything that affect your personal qualifications, right? You have not done anything bad, get charged with anything. As long as you meet the basic requirements still, you will still get the same radio, the same television, the same internet, the same town hall, and the same debating access as any other candidates. Whether you are rich or poor, whether you're from uptown or downtown, whether you're black or you're white or in between, it doesn't matter. As long as you meet the basic qualifications, you will receive equal access. Notice you're not receiving money. If you notice, we're not actually giving you any money. What we're doing is giving you what you need, access to communicate effectively with your constituents. So let's say I am running for president under that system. I will have no more financial advantage as the founder of this system, as the founder of the UIC. I will have no more advantage than somebody who never found nothing. That person will come, and as long as they meet the qualification, experientially they have demonstrated that they have worked and performed, and they have built a career, whether it's in business, owning a business, or in plumbing or carpentry or law or engineering or medicine, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that they have done that is productive, that they have been a positive contributor to society and taking care of their responsibilities, paying their bills, paying back money that they borrow, that kind of stuff. And they can pass the good governance test and show that they understand the basics of economics, the basics of statistics, the basics of history, the basics of civics and understanding professional ethics, then they're more than qualified to be on the ballot. And what the differentiator between me and that person now will be the policies that I enunciate, my character when the persons look at both of us and assess our character. For some people, it might be who is more honest. They might bring it down, or who is more handsome. That's what they might come down to. But the bottom line is, no big business and no political party will be able to rob the citizens of their own choice. You follow me? I hope you're following me. If you like what I've said so far, if it makes sense to you and you think it's a good way to go, please write yes in the comment box. If you don't think it's a good way to go, please write no so that I can know. All right? So in our system, candidates must be qualified and competent to serve as a representative and must secure nominators to get on the ballot. This means that the people that we're bringing forward to you, not even we, the people that the system will bring forward to you are people who are in a position to effectively serve you as a representative, because that's what you're voting for. Somebody to represent you in the House and somebody you can trust and depend on to work on your behalf. Yeah. So one of the lovely things about our process as well, you're not going to have the kind of noisy, unruly, messy mass campaigning that you see going on, normally. Our system will be far more orderly, far safer than what you have now, and no more possibility of intimidation. You're not going to have any runners coming to pull you out of your house to carry you anywhere or whatever. You just get up and you go on your phone and stuff. If you don't have that, there will be stations available where you can go physically and vote if you want to do that. But we're going to give you the freedom to be able to vote from your home or anywhere around the world. Yeah. Another key part to remember is that every candidate is pre-vetted They're vetted, audited, and fact-checked to ensure that they're what they say they are, and to ensure that they have a clean background before, during, and after they enter politics. One of the things we're going to do is to audit everyone who comes in to see what their financial position is when they come in to run as a candidate. Now, let's say they win. Every year that they're in office, they'll be audited. And every year we're going to look at their financial position to assess how did their net worth change, or their cash position change, or their asset position change. And if that cannot be accounted for by their legitimate activities. So let's say I was like the Prime Minister we have today, and I left from university and went straight into politics, which means my net worth is probably near to zero when I went into politics, right? If I left from college and went straight into politics. So let's compare me and the Prime Minister. I think this is a good comparison. So both of us went to school around the same time. We both went to school in St. Catherine. He went to St. Catherine High, I think it was, and I went to Spanish Town Secondary in Spanish Town. So he went to a better school than me. I'm a bright boy. I went to St. Catherine. I was a dunce boy. I went to Spanish Town Secondary, and then he went to sixth form, and I went to Stats for the next 2 years after Spanish Town Secondary. He went to University of the West Indies. I went to UTech. Yeah. After he finished UA, he went and worked in a charity that I believe was politically aligned, and for about a year. And then afterwards, he went straight to work for Mr. Siaga as his assistant. Yeah. So those positions are not moneyed positions that are going to bring you a lot of money if you're going to be working in a charity at that level and as assistant to a former prime minister. In any event, that's his path. Right after that, so a year later or so, he's now MP for a pretty dark constituency, and he has spent the rest of his working life in that arena. So he's what you call a career politician. So he has spent all his life in politics. He has never had a real day job like the rest of us. So when I left UTech, I went and became a teacher. I taught physics, engineering science, and mathematics. And after that, I went and I worked with the sugar company as an engineer and gained the position as assistant manager for instrumentation. And from there, I went to Canada, where I rose through a number of positions, from accounting clerk to junior accountant to accounting manager to financial analyst to business analyst to director of finance, financial controller, VP of finance and administration, to a directorship in the government for financial reporting and controls, and then bought and sold a few businesses, CEO, chairman for one of the largest social investment fund in the world, situated in the Netherlands, and all of that, and worked with a number of countries and different kinds of companies and so on. So that's my path. Now, which of us do you think should have, generally speaking, the larger net worth in that outcome? Now, under our system, the UIC system, the moment the Prime Minister went into office, run for office, the system would have immediately take a snapshot of his net worth. And then it would have tracked his net worth every year, auditing him and verifying what's going on. So when the Prime Minister's net worth shot up, got big, just suddenly jump and become very big, they would have said, oh, wait a minute, let's drill down here and figure it out, Now, in my case, because I wasn't involved in politics, they would not have been doing that to me. But the moment I step in, let's say I'm stepping in now, so he and I are in the same age group right now. So he would have been in politics all of those years, from from 25, 23 to 50 years old. He has been in politics, right? As an elected representative somewhere around here in politics. So now when they compare his net worth from politics should be fairly, minimal. And mine, based on what I just told you, should be a little bit more significant. Now, as life would have it, it appears the Prime Minister has a very sizable net worth, but that has not been challenged. Under a UIC system, that would have been challenged, that would have been audited forensically, and the Jamaican people would have been able to comfortably say, yeah man, he really earned that level and built that net worth honestly. So I leave that to you to figure out the conclusion from there. Purpose Driven is saying, Mr. Patterson, please, I'm asking you to go on YouTube and watch a channel. No problem, I'll do that. So yes, so the point I'm making is that this system that I'm talking to you about is an unbelievable system that is going to put Jamaica on a path that every country in the world will be marveling at our effective system of governance. So I'd like to end with this last clip before taking your questions. Let's take a look at this last clip before I take some questions from you. It's called Corruption, Crosstalk, Political Leaders Trade Accusations. Let's take a look.
Evidence that what we have today in Jamaica is the most corrupt administration that has ever held office in the history of our country since independence.
What is this man talking about? Well, make me make the statement, backed up by facts, that the PNP is the most corrupt political organization in the Caribbean.
Pushing scandal.
If you go back to 1989, which is a long time ago, you would hear about the Rollins land deal scandal.
Police use car scandal.
If you go back to 1990, you remember the zinc scandal after Hurricane Gilbert.
FLA scandal.
You have the furniture scandal. Then you have the Shell waiver scandal.
$8 million phone bill scandal.
Then you have a big scandal in 1992 over the illegal importation of motor vehicles. Then in 1993, we hear some man buy US dollar out of the back of them car all over. Big scandal.
$9 million travel scandal at TPD. The government have more scandal in it than Riverton City have scandal back.
You hear about the corrupt distribution of land in Holland. You hear about the Operation Pride scandal. Then in 1997, you have the FinSac scandal.
And then we have the super scandal, the Petrojam scandal. That one have everything in it.
And then now you have the mother of all scandal, the traffic guru scandal. You remember that?
Friends of the government collecting money for travel, but not traveling.
The Montego Bay street people scandal. The fat cat salary scandal. You remember NetServe? Yes.
Friends of the government getting jobs at 3 times the pay that the previous occupants of the job had. While at the same time, long-serving, loyal, patriotic civil servants being fired from jobs.
Then you have the Sandals White House scandal. Then now, after that, you come up with the Cuban light bulb scandal. You remember that? You have the Hanover Parish Council scandal.
Friends of the government and activists for the JLP getting jobs in organizations for which they don't have qualifications.
Then you have the Chick V scandal. Then you have the dead baby scandal. Then you have the bad gas scandal. Then you have now the parish council in a Manchester scandal.
Friends being awarded contracts by breaking the procurement rules. And some of those friends is the same people that turn up in the bushing scandal.
You remember Outer Many scandal? You remember EWI energy scandal?
Never in our history have we heard of a government entering into verbal contracts. No paper, no sign. Just word of mouth. $23 million. What madness is this going on in our country, Master?
You can't cuss me when you corrupt.
Thank God for the opposition in Parliament. Thank God for the PAAC and the PNP members and the PAAC.
We already know that in bad mind him that likes the people prosper. And now we know that him is nothing but a hypocrite. There will always be in every government, regardless of jurisdiction, people who breach the rule, people who use their power unjustly, unfairly, and unduly. The mark.
Wow, what can I say? What can I say about these two? If you are not convinced by now, that Jamaica has no hope at all, if we give, it's now, somebody corrected me earlier, I said 78 years. We're now in 2023. It's now 79 years. 79 years. 79 years. 79 years that we have been tolerating, putting up with, allowing these two parties to continue to do to us what they've done to us. 79 years now, 2023. By the time we have the next election, which is due, the next general election, which is due in 2025, it will be 81 years. Now, the election won't be in 2025. It's going to be in 2024. So by the time we have the election in 2024, it would have been 80 years and nothing would have changed materially except that we have depreciated as a country on so many fronts. The entire colonial partisan political system of these two colonial parties is a massive corruption enterprise that has cost us more than you and I could ever imagine. The cost is massive. It is sad to say that they have clearly listed out for us tonight how they have both scammed the people of Jamaica over the last 79 years. There are yet scandals that you and I don't know about yet. There are more scandals to come. And when the UIC is elected and we perform a forensic audit going all the way back to 1944, yes, we are going to show you, because we believe history is important. We have to document history and teach it to our children so our children understand the value of good governance. And so we are going to audit this government, the government of the JLP and the PNP of the last 79 years. And by the time we win, it will be 80 years when we win the general election. And we are going to investigate all of them backside. Sorry, pardon my language. We are going to investigate and document and prosecute and jail these people for what they have done to the Jamaican people. Yes, They have cost us more than $750 million a year for corruption. That is why Jamaica is so unsafe. That is why Jamaica is so unclean. That is why Jamaica is so disorderly. That is why Jamaica is so crime-ridden. That is why so much of Jamaica is dilapidated. That is why so many in Jamaica are poor. That is why 90% of the Jamaican people live below the US poverty line. 90%. My friends, we cannot afford one more day under these two parties. 79 years is more than enough. They had more than enough time to do all the right things, and they failed us to do so. Of course, in the next election, they're going to be making you a lot of promises. Right now, the Prime Minister is borrowing a lot of our ideas and phrases and thoughts, and he's spewing them out left, right, and center. They're going to promise you the moon now. They're going to tell you that they're going to do all the things the UIC has been saying. They won't call our name, of course. They're going to say, we're going to fix energy security. We're going to fix food security. We're going to fix water security. We're going to make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world. We're going to bring in youth employment solutions. We're going to bring in a work fair program. They're going to tell you all of this now. They're going to borrow every single item from the UIC's agenda, except items like what we discussed tonight. They will not make Jamaica a 100% publicly funded campaign financing system. They won't do that. They would not make Jamaica a true republic. They won't do that. They will not make Jamaica a non-partisan constitutional republic. They're not going to do that. They're going to take all the other issues now that you can talk about, even play with a little program, but it will not fundamentally change the nation. Because they and their donors at the PSOJ oligarchs who donate $300+ million to them during election time, plus much more outside of election. They do not want the kind of Jamaica that the UIC is talking about. If the PSOJ want this kind of Jamaica, they would immediately stop funding those two parties if they want this kind of Jamaica. This is how you will know if the if the PSOJ wants what the UIC is talking about. They would immediately stop funding those two parties, because the PSOJ, they're business people. They would never keep on their payroll a staff who is not performing. If they have a staff that's not performing up to par, not coming to work on time, not developing and delivering on their competencies, not causing the business to be profitable, not managing costs, not being effective managers, they would fire them. So the only reason why they keep paying these two parties is because the two parties are performing up to standard, to their standard, not to mine and yours. So as long as these two parties are performing the way the PSOJ wants them to perform, the PSOJ elites, the oligarchs as I call them, will continue to fund them. So you watch. In the next election, if you see the PSOJ oligarchs giving them $300 million again at election time, we don't know what to give them outside of election, because that is not made public. The UIC submits our audited statements that shows everything to the ECJ, which has the GLP and the PNP on it, who control it, but we don't see their financials. They see ours. They see every penny we get. They monitor us by law in detail. We don't get to see them by law. We're excluded from the ECJ. So we're in a system which is designed to undermine and trick the Jamaican people. And so in the next election, you will see the PSOJ lining up again to give these two parties over 300, remember now, they doubled it from 2016. So come this 2024 election, is some $600, $700 million they're going to give them in that election. to come and buy your votes, to come and sweet you up, to give you the armbands that Darrell Vaz was talking about, and the t-shirts and the caps, and the free rides to meetings and the free rides to vote. They're going to pay for the gas and pay for the vehicle. They're going to pay for all the posters. They'll have all the money. They'll pay for those beautiful television ads, those wonderful dub plates. All of that will be done. And the question is, are you wise enough not to be fooled by it again? They have fooled us for 79 years already. Will we allow them to fool us for the 80th year of their trickery? We need a new system and new leadership for a new and better Jamaica. The UIC is that new system. The UIC offers that new leadership. The UIC will give us that new Jamaica. And on that note, I am ready to take your questions now. Any questions? I'm sure Douglas will bring them up on the screen for us. Do we have any questions? No, Ms. Powell, the PSOJ is not fully done. They're fully committed to maintaining the system to benefit themselves at the expense of you, me, and our picnic. So let's get some question on screen here. Do we have any questions? I hear you, Osman. I understand what you're saying for sure. Thank you, Mr. Christopher Stevens, on the nice suit bit. Appreciate that. So any questions from anyone that you want? Did I clearly explain to you, the issues of the change that we're going to have in place? While we're waiting for questions, let's do some ratings now. How do you rate tonight's presentation? Does it answers the question you have, meet your expectations? Do you like what you have heard? Should the UIC go forward with this as our platform and manifesto in the coming elections? Do you think the Jamaican people want a 100% publicly funded system that eliminates the PSOJ oligarchy and eliminates the political parties from being able to manipulate their representatives? So if you are in agreement with us, give us 100%. If you are halfway there, give us a 50%. If you're absolutely not happy, give us a 0. All right, I hear that there are no questions. Thank you, JMH. Thank you, Kirk. Jamaica people need to start looking for a government that builds the country instead of being loyal to political parties. Good comment. Question here, have you received new donors since the start of the new year? Yes, we have. We have new donors coming in. I saw a glimpse of one report, I think earlier this morning, that showed a new donor coming in or so. I'm glad you asked the question on donors. Bear in mind, friends, that the UIC can only win the next election if ordinary Jamaicans like you give us the money to do so. Yeah. You see how in the US, a lot of small donors give whole heap of money to Barack Obama, for example. We need the same kind of help here. So don't think that there's a miracle here in Jamaica. There's no miracle. It's either you do it or the PSOJ do it. So the PSOJ oligarch will pick their horse in the race, and they will fund that horse to win. So we have to fund our horse if we want to win. Thank you, Desmond Myrie. Thank you, Norman Smith and Kwame Gordon. Greetings. Nizook says, I'm loving it. 100% is real truth. Thank you so much. Wade Noble says 100 A+. Can Jamaica have running water all through the island? Yes, we can, Donovan Oilet. Absolutely, we can. There's no reason why we shouldn't. And JMH's PSOJ love to do it. Yes. Clean D said your presentation was on point. And God's richest blessing, family. Sorry I am late. Yes, Mr. P, them expect the people to sell out this time, though you'll be there properly, their property to dispose of, yes. Are there upcoming interviews for the UIC on social media platforms and on radio and TV? None that I'm aware of right now. NAHJ1 done. It's a complex name you have there, though. But no, I'm not aware of any imminent interviews coming up now. Clean D is asking if you can, if he or she can call in. Not tonight. We don't have the phone line set up, so not tonight. But please post your question. We have another 5 minutes or so. If candidates have voters' commitment and choose to drop out, how will those votes be redirected? Very good question, Mr. Romans. We have not thought about that, so I will now look forward to your proposal as to how we deal with that. Do we have representatives in all the parishes, Olga is asking? No, I know that we've covered. We have, persons in St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, St. James, Clarendon, St. Anne, St. Mary. We're still missing Portland, I believe, and St. Thomas. Well, we do have in St. Thomas. We have one person out in St. Thomas. Yeah, but not every parish yet. Please, if you know someone who wants to run, or you know someone that should run, please encourage them to join up as quickly as possible. Will police station close under UIC government? No, there'll be 24-hour operations. Thanks for asking that, Craig. I am so appalled at police stations locking up at night. And when people go, I was in China, I was in China. Which year was that? I was in China. What year was it? I forgot. But it was, every roadside they go up in China, you see the police. Every single road you go on, there's a police or soldier on the roads. Not looking mean or anything. But they look very respectful and very dignified. And the police stations are open in Beijing 24/7. So you can go there any time of night and make a complaint or whatever. Thank you for that question, Craig. Can you specifically do a live to address and educate the PSOJ? What do you mean, Ms. Jasmine? To educate the PSOJ? The PSOJ don't need my education. They know exactly what they're doing, Ms. Jasmine. I hope I understand your question properly. Why do you think Jamaicans so slow to help the UIC? I promote the UIC. Christopher, I think they just can't believe that there's an answer. They're so committed to believing that it's hopeless. They have been brainwashed by the two parties and the media that no third party can win, not realizing that, of course, no third party can win unless the people make a third party win. There's no way a third party can win in Jamaica unless the people decide to make it win. If you have a third party that wins through the normal process, then you will only have three sides of the same coin. So if another party comes up and it is promoted and funded by a special interest group, whether that special interest group is the church or the PSOJ or any other group, once it's funded by one special interest group, you will not have a good outcome. You want to make sure that your political process is not funded by any special interest group. That is why the UIC is going to make sure we have a 100% publicly funded system. Yeah. We want a Jamaica where criminals are afraid to even think about committing a crime. Absolutely, Daniel Taylor. Yes. Including politicians because of the penalties. Absolutely. But more importantly, Daniel, than the penalties is to make sure that you have checks and balances that prevents persons from deciding to even engage in crime. I'll give you an example. I have worked for many years in the corporate world. And you can tell when a company is going to do well. A company that has very good internal controls, strong internal controls. So they manage, let's say, inventory. They have a good inventory process. So nobody can just go in and take out a piece of inventory without the system picking up that something has gone wrong, and you can track and find who it is. They have good cash management process. They have good production processes that ensure that you have total quality management along the process. You have checks along the way to make sure defects are picked up quickly, and that you can pinpoint where in the process something went wrong and who was responsible for it. And you reward persons who do well, and you punish persons who do poorly, and so on. Companies which have good internal controls end up with very solid, very profitable, very productive companies. I'm a chartered accountant, so part of my job has always been to look at business processes, systems, checks and balances to make sure that things are properly accounted for. And in my entire several years now in the field, I have always noticed the most profitable and successful companies are those with the best internal control systems. The same applies for a government. You see, Singapore, they had a leader that was very focused on proper or stringent and strong internal control, zero tolerance of corruption, total quality management, excellence as the performance standard, a meritocratic system where you rise through the ranks based on merit, not on friends or favoritism or nepotism. Once you put that kind of system in place, you tend to have very positive outcomes. And so the UIC has adopted those mindsets and those approaches. That's why even within the UIC, we have problems. We had some serious problems recently where persons, got very mad at me because of my leadership style. They were just not used to leadership in Jamaica where you hold people accountable, no matter who they are, no matter if they are your friend, no matter if you like them, no matter if they come home and eat dinner with you, no matter if they have sat around your dining room. Me and you are a friend to the point where I will allow you to get away with incompetence. I won't allow you to get away with not being accountable for the responsibility that you have taken on. And so I have realized from my experience in Jamaica now, living here again for the last 11 years, that our people have been so depreciated that quality is no longer something that is top. Remember in the old days when a carpenter would make a piece of furniture, it was solid as a rock. Today, just wishy-washy. We don't have that kind of standard anymore. Well, I want to bring back them standard there. I want Jamaica again to become a place, a nation of high quality production, high quality performance, stringent accountability. That's what I want. I want to make sure that when a product leaves Jamaica, just the name Jamaica on the product means quality. It means integrity. It means dependability. It means accountability. It means trustworthiness. That's what I want coming out of Jamaica. At every level. I want all of our processes to be as clinical, efficient, and effective as Usain Bolt. You saw how clinical he was? He had perfect form. Like Shelley and Fraser, they pinned down their team. They study and master the art of running effectively and efficiently. That's why I got such good results. Let's replicate that in all of our doings. Every government office must become a customer service place, a place that respects the time of the citizen, that respects the human dignity of the person, that understand that they're in the business of serving the Jamaican people. They're not the boss or the master of the Jamaican people. They're there to serve the Jamaican people. I want a police that's not a force, but a service that's going to not only serve and protect, but respect the people. Don't assume that because the boy clothes look tear up or him look poor mean you have the right to disrespect him or abuse him. You must see him as a human being worthy of respect unless he demonstrates a lack of respect. And then you have to deal with him because of the nature of the situation. Yep. So anyways, what am I missing here? Did I miss any questions or comments? But if some company want to help, why not make them help fund the UIC? Not everyone is the same. Okay, so again, Miss Wilson or Mr. Wilson, let me be clear. The UIC will happily take money from any legitimate sources. So if a company wants to fund us, if the PSOJ wakes up tomorrow and wants to fund us, that's fine. As long as they're signing on the dotted line that they're funding us to pursue the agenda that I've outlined to you. So we will take money from any legitimate source, any legal source, but we're not going to be owned by any source. We must be owned by the people of Jamaica. So don't get me wrong, we're not telling the PSOJ not to fund the UIC. We're saying we see what you're doing. We'll understand what you've been doing the last 79 years. If you're willing to change, we're willing to talk. But I can assure you that come 2024, they will be right there again, giving $300 million to the two parties to make sure that they have them in their back pockets. Daniel Taylor, are you able to find the people with the drive, competences, and the motivation to take on the task of representing the UIC? Jojo, that's a very good question. It has been a challenge to find, enough persons with the competences, the motivation, and the drive to do the work. It has been a challenge, but I'm hoping that there's somebody out there like you, Jojo, who wishes to help to change that. Daniel Taylor says, I notice in Jamaica, in the political arena, it's like wrong is right, is the new right, yeah, because good police officers are not likely to be promoted. But that's the point, Daniel. That's the exact system we have. No good police officer is going to be promoted, generally speaking. If you know about the system of promotion in the police, you'll run. It is very political and politicized. It is a mad system of promotion. It is corrupt. The current police commissioner is engaged in a very corrupt system of promotion, as far as I know. Very, very corrupt. And it is sanctioned by the political directorate. Snitcher, the way we prevent corruption in our party is not the party. The corruption prevention is in the government. But here in the UIC, in terms of corruption prevention, I mean, there's not much to be corrupt about. In the UIC, we have a finance committee, for example. On that finance committee, you have individuals from different countries, from the diaspora on it. You have local. All of our transactions are approved by two persons, two signing officers, and all of it is visible and auditable by the members of the finance committee. And then our books are audited by an independent audit firm. And then our financials are submitted to the ECJ, which has a commission, which is staffed, which is occupied by members of the two alternative parties, which means we're the most transparent and most vetted political party in Jamaica. There's no other party which is more transparent or vetted than the UIC in Jamaica, in the history of Jamaica. So that's how we prevent corruption in the party. Now, when we're government, it's even worse, because our very policies that we're going to be implementing, not as a policy which changes from year to year, but by a constitutional reform, which will mean the new constitution will have embedded in it solid checks and balances, such as what we described here tonight. In one instance, we've talked about a 100% public. Just imagine the UIC wins government in 2024. By the following year or the next election, we now have a 100% publicly funded system. So remember now, I was elected, UIC, the current system, I am Prime Minister. We have now done the transition, done the transformation to the new constitution, and made all the regulatory changes. And we come now down to the 5 years' time, we now have elections. And that elections, I and all the other presidential candidates, if I'm running, will have the same slate. I will have no ability to use taxpayers' money to advance my agenda or my candidacy. I will be at the mercy of the electorate in the same way as every other candidate who decide to run for president that year. All the other candidates will be in the same position. They will have no avenues to get money from PSOJ to help them out, or to get money from the party or any party they belong to help them out. They're going to be facing the electorate squarely on a level playing field. A level playing field. And so that will be a new day in Jamaica. It will be the first time in the history of our country that we have such an effective model of governance, such a clean election where the best woman or man would surely win. Money will not have a say in that election. Have you considered doing phone calls to reach voters like they do in the US? Absolutely, Olga. We do have a database that we do make phone calls. Nobody has made more phone calls than my wife and taken calls. She does an excellent job of that. Thank you, Olga. Next question or comment. Is there a law governing banks who refuse the UIC a commercial bank account? No. Currently in Jamaica, there are no laws that can force a bank to give a legitimate organization a bank account. There are no such laws at all. Of course, we could take them to court and challenge it and try to win, but we don't have the money to do that. And it would be, very difficult to win as well. Next question. Can you please put up the link for us to donate? It's there. I see Lion Will the Jungle posting it all night. The website. Let's go on the website, uicjamaica.com, and you can donate there, Ms. Graham. Thank you so much. And there's it again on the screen. So I think I have said enough for tonight, everyone. Did I miss any question, anything you want me to answer before we go tonight? I just want to say a big thank you in closing to all of you. Last year, 2022, I've seen the preliminary financials, and we received in donations and all different forms of revenues a total of roughly 5.5 million Jamaican dollars. That's a drop in the bucket, but it's an improvement over the previous year. And I'm looking forward to all of us here truly getting involved and getting our friends and families to donate. We want to win the next election, but we can't do it without you. A little off topic, says Mr. Williams, do you think Jamaica could host F1 races, etc., as a means to make money? Jamaica is a very marketable place, and things like this could generate money. I must admit, I don't know what F1 races are. Forgive me. What are F1 races? Anybody know? Can you tell me? Backstage, you know what F1 races are? I feel very ignorant here. Okay, car racing. Okay, all right. I thought there was something else going on. Well, in a UIC Jamaica, entrepreneurs who want to create such an outcome and offer such a product to the marketplace, we'll be more than happy to do so. More than free to do so. So that's great. Can be done. Motorsports, yes. Thank you. All right. Again, thank you all very much for being here tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen and for giving your feedback. So let us go out with a bang as usual, as we say, one UIC, one Jamaica, stronger together. See you next time. Have a good night.